of its President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan from foreign countries. According to US-based democracy watchdog group Freedom House, Turkey has been involved in at least 60 examples over the past 3.5 years across 17 different countries. Now, that includes abductions by Turkish intelligence and deportations where there was little to no legal process. I spoke with the director of Human Rights Watch in Turkey, Sinclair-Webb, and she explains how the Erdoğan administration's shadowy campaign began.
Well, back in July 2016, there was an attempted military coup in Turkey, and this coup attempt was blamed by the Turkish government on the followers of Fethullah Gülen, who is a US-based Sunni Muslim cleric with a very wide international movement of schools around the world and active in Turkey as well, of course. And after this coup, there was a domestic purge of people associated with this religious movement of Fethullah Gülen. Many were imprisoned, and we're talking tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands of people were put under investigation for connection with terrorism, and the group was regarded as a terrorist group by the Turkish government. Then coming to the issue of the abductions, basically, since the 2016 coup attempt, we've seen the Turkish government's reach go beyond its own territory and to try to bring back, forcibly return, alleged followers of this Gülen movement from countries around the world. And those have particularly been people running schools, businessmen based in many, many countries. And the government has been very proud of actually advertising that it has succeeded in bringing these people back to Turkey.
How many have they brought back to Turkey, and what happens to them when they are returned?
Well, these forcible returns take different forms. We would say scores of people have been treated in this way. I don't have an official figure, but we understand that it's over 100. And the men, and they're all men, as far as I know, are often either abducted, literally off the streets in the countries they're living in, or the Turkish authorities work together with local authorities in the country to bypass legal courts and other authorities and organize the men's summary return to Turkey. And that's a very distressing and lawless way of conducting. It's not a normal extradition procedure, is what I want to say.
Yes, so, but just let's follow on from that, because you really are saying that countries are complicit with Turkey in allowing these abductions to take place.
Typically, yes, it's countries with weak rule of law frameworks. We've seen this most recently happen in Kenya. We've seen a new case emerge in Kyrgyzstan, where a man has been abducted, and it's very unclear what the Kyrgyz authorities know about it. The man is allegedly held in the Turkish embassy at the moment, and there are a lot of protests against his forcible return. But it's clearly being done in a way, or if there's an attempt by the Turkish authorities to somehow bypass any due process. And this is why we're seeing this happen, as I said, in countries with generally weak rule of law frameworks, or frameworks where one local authority can be played off against another. And so I can give you another example. In Kosovo, we had 6 men who were Gülenist, working for a Gülenist school, were teachers, I believe. They were actually brought back to Turkey. But some of the authorities in Kosovo didn't even know that this was happening. And it ended up with the Kosovan interior minister being sacked by the prime minister for not having prevented what was an unlawful forcible return, deportation.
So then let's come to what happens to them once they are brought back to Turkey.
Well, these people are clearly immediately jailed, put into pretrial detention and faced trials, as so many followers of the Gülen movement have, on terrorism charges, because Turkey regards the movement as a terrorist organization. Now, definitely in the process, they're subject to unfair trials. But as well as that, we could also say that there's an element in these cases of enforced disappearance. When someone is taken off the street and abducted and forcibly returned, and they're unaccounted for long periods of time, weeks at a time, we call that an enforced disappearance. The other risk, of course, is of ill treatment and torture. In some cases, we have evidence that that has happened, the men's own testimonies, very many months later. But in general, the problem is that these men are immediately put into detention and are really, it's very hard for us to monitor what does exactly happen to them. But UN mechanisms like the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention have certainly found that Turkey has violated many articles of international law in abducting men or forcibly organizing their forcible return in this way. And one of the violations is arbitrary detention.
Extraordinary. And so little response, it would seem, from the international community, which is even further disturbing.
Very little response. And particularly striking in all of this is that the Turkish authorities literally boast about their success in bringing these men back to Turkey. So we often see pictures of the men handcuffed in front of Turkish flags presented to the public as, you know, we have successfully caught this man. Obviously no mention of the breaking the law involved in doing so, and bypassing United Nations mechanisms, UNHCR, not respecting the fact that people have asylum claims in some cases, or are residents or even citizens in the countries they've been living in. So yes, silence from the international community, and a really brazen attitude by the Turkish authorities, boasting of the success of their intelligence services in conducting these abductions and rendition-style returns of alleged Gülenis.